Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 15 of our Neuro-affirming social skills story series even. I'm Evaleen. I'm here to talk about the work that I do supporting autistic kids and teens socially in a way that's not forcing them to be or communicate in a way that's not natural to autistic people, that is disrespectful to autistic communication and the autistic way of being. So we're talking a bit about decoding. We talked about it last week. So if you've missed any episodes, do go back on YouTube and check them out. We're going to talk a little bit more about decoding. So we talked about decoding social rituals like chit chat last week. Now we're going to talk about the way people might use non-literal language, and that can be confusing for literal interpreters. It can be confusing across different cultures as well. And that's something we mentioned, is that communication does differ, obviously, across different cultures, across different families, across different contexts. And it's important that we remember that. So sarcasm is what we're going to talk about today. And sarcasm can be really confusing for us. Now, I remember discovering sarcasm when I was about 15, and I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. And I thought it was really funny to be sarcastic all of the time. So I think back now, I'm like, oh my God, how do people put up with it? But lots of my friends were doing the same thing, or lots of people I was hanging out with at the time, and a little bit of sarcasm is like really useful, and it's really, it can be really fun sometimes. It can be funny and amusing and entertaining. But again, it's how people use it and when they use it in the context, and all that stuff is quite complex, isn't it? So let's break it down. So we've just looked at how autistics communicate and how we can be misunderstood. This can work both ways for us, like when other people say things that we find hard to understand. So again, we're just popping in double empathy. This is what communication is about. We can misinterpret each other. Sarcasm can be one of the things that confuse us. Sarcasm is when someone says something, but they mean something else. They mean the opposite of what they're saying, and that can be confusing. Now, a good way to know sarcasm is the speaker usually uses like a certain tone, and then we know it's sarcastic and it's a type of humor. Now that tone's going to vary depending on culture and language, but in Cork, where I'm from, we say I will yeah, I will yeah. So there's that da 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 da, that kind of a tune when someone's being sarcastic. And I will yeah means no. And that's very confusing, and that's very sarcastic. And how would anybody outside of our little county and our people who visited us and got to know us, how would people know that? People would not instinctively know that when Cork people are saying I will yeah, we mean no. So it's not just autistic to non-autistic communication where there's barriers and miscommunication occurring. It happens a lot of the time across humanity for lots of different reasons. So I think that inflection is like a good way to understand it. If you can pick up on inflection, not everybody can. Another good tip would be like looking at the context. So like if someone's standing in the rain and they're soaking wet, and next thing they say, that's a lovely day, isn't it? Or would we go to the beach? And the context is saying the opposite, like it's a horrible day, it's wet, we wouldn't go to the beach. That's a good sign or good way to know that someone is being sarcastic, if the context is saying the opposite, of what that person is saying. And also, look, best tip, as it always is if you're unsure, just ask the person and hope that they will just reply to you, knowing that your question is just a question. So thank you so much for joining me. We'll pop back next week, but do let me know how you're getting on. I absolutely love hearing from people. So let me know. And if you want to find out more about our work, you can pop onto awesometraining.com. Lots of huge, ton of resources there as well for people. If you go to our resources section, we have like over 80 articles and some downloads there as well for people that you might find helpful. Things like explaining autism to your child and all of that. So thanks so much for joining me. See you next week. Bye.